Hola a todos, bienvenidos a un nuevo podcast de Chasing Alpha. El día de hoy, pues muy emocionados, estamos en Guatemala, estamos con Santiago, Oscar, que siempre me acompañan, y Pouya Yadegar. Pouya, welcome to Guatemala. I understand you're a fund manager, you manage a family office. You started in the mining funds, then real estate, and then public equities. So thank you for being here.
Of course. It's a pleasure. Beautiful country. Been here a couple of times and very much enjoying it. Nice to meet you today. So if you like, would you like me just to kind of give you a little bit of a history?
Please.
So basically, we're a family office. It's our own family. And we actually started out in the Middle East, in Iran. And it's kind of a very interesting story. So my uncle at the age of like 16 or 17 years old, you don't make them like that anymore, decides to get on a barge and go from Iran and convinces somebody to give him a ride, again, on a barge, to go to Japan against his family's will, because back then everyone was very lower income. And, he wanted to figure out a way to make money. I think they had like 6-7 kids in the family, including my dad. So against his family as well, because he was so young and he didn't speak any Japanese, he says, I'm going. He goes and he learns the culture, loves the culture, learns fluent Japanese. And then we start importing copper wire into the Middle East, right? And back then, there weren't a lot of great suppliers, as you can imagine, but the industry was booming, right? All the telecom infrastructure, everything having to do with copper was a very big playing field. And so the business takes off, right? Not a lot of competitors, but with the boom. And then, so the business starts to do really, really well. And then we go to the Japanese and we say, hey, why don't we actually bring in the machinery now and actually manufacture locally so we can really undercut pricing, 30, 40%. And so we convince the Japanese and still as our partners, we bring in the machinery, and then the business kind of just, elevates to another level, right? No one is really able to compete with us. So, we get telecom contracts, railroad contracts. The business even starts to go kind of multinational. And we even start looking into buying the mines locally. And while all this is happening, in the back of our minds, we're saying, because of our background and culture, just we're Jewish. We said it's probably a good idea to diversify a little bit just in case. And it was kind of an unfamiliar story because everyone kept investing more and more. So we came to Southern California, mostly like Beverly Hills, Brentwood, just really higher end areas, and started accumulating a lot of real estate. And this is probably in the late 60s, early 70s. So a while ago, and my uncles and everyone were buying property. Everyone's like, what are you doing? We were kind of like the pioneers of it from our culture and our background. Anyway, so that's done really well for us. Long-term mindset. Never sold anything that we bought, which is kind of a little bit differentiated. It's very, very kind of under the radar type of a mentality. And so that's done well. And, we've been fortunate to be put in a nice position. So let me just stop there real quick. Make sense? What questions do you have, if any? And
no. I think I love your story, and I was just surprised on how it all started, because it just clicked on what we are doing here at a personal level, because we are a country that is developing, right? And we suffer from migration of people, just like your grandfather. And it just clicked me so much, because what we are trying to do here is do what you are doing as an opportunity for Guatemala, and to make Guatemala a better place for everybody, so that people don't have to go. So sorry for that small interruption, but I think it was so great.
Struck a chord.
I
inspiring.
Yes, it's struck a chord. Because guys, like like our migration story in Guatemala. Everybody goes to the US looking for a better business. We are trying to bring the fun culture in which you are now. And you started like many Guatemalans are striving to start. So you just hit me center.
Yeah. What's really interesting to me on that point is that, I was brought up in America and I completely love America. There's nothing greater in the world, right? I love to travel. I love all these other countries and all the other cultures, and there's so much to see and enjoy. But I'm like, wow, I'm so blessed to be, brought up in America, right? But I asked my parents even today, I'm like, wow, aren't you like so lucky we left, the Middle East and we came to America? And they say, no. They're like, are you crazy? Like Iran was like the greatest place in the world. You had the celebrity and you had this and you had great food and you had great culture and friendship and open doors and all of that. So the point I'm trying to make is people don't want to leave their home country, right? It's kind of, they get forced to leave, right? By, dumb policies, to be, to say it in a kind of a nice way.
In a very educated manner.
Yeah, really. It boils down to that because people love where they're born. I mean, unless something is really strange in that area. So, I mean, I would just say that it looks like, Guatemala is doing a lot of all the right things. And again, it's just very interesting in my mind that even my parents who have become so successful in every forum, all of our families there, we all live, in Beverly Hills, very close to each other and all that, but they still strive to kind of be where they were born, right? And so there's that natural ingrown ability and a preference for people that are to stay in Guatemala. If the policies are good, people want to stay here and then travel outside to do other things, So I think that the point you're making is a very solid one, and I think it's very accomplishable, with the policies that are being implemented.
You mentioned something. So I too come from my family immigrated here. I probably born and raised here, and Pouya, it's a good friend of mine. I have the honor of calling myself his friend, and he always inspires me with different stories. I mean, he has many stories. We would need a week of podcasts to get through all of them. But what part do you think plays the capital markets? You mentioned something that's completely right, and I agree 100%. The correct policies. As long as these politicians, and I will call it dumb politicians, don't understand that if they chase out the capital, if they push out capital, if they punish capital with those with stupid policies that punish the accumulation or the working capital, they generate this instability that makes people immigrate to the States or otherwise. You, as an expert investor, what do you look for a country? What do we have to offer for a man of your stature for you to say, it's interesting, I have this big real estate fund, I'm going to invest in Guatemala? What do we have to bring to the table?
I think the bottom line is that, leave people alone. It's so simple, right? It's so simple. It's like the more, and it's interesting, if you listen to the founding fathers of America, they were very successful business people. And when they went into government, right? And again, that was very limited government. They basically said, I'm so worried to get into government because I'm going to become more corrupt. Even though they were not corrupt and they were worried about it, the influence of government is, can change your whole mindset, right? And so the point is that leave people alone and people naturally produce. I mean, if you put me and you on a farm or an island in the middle of nowhere, what's our natural inclination?
Do something.
Let's help each other out. Let's figure out how to live a better life and let's produce. So anytime you get some outside force that ends up having a natural disbias towards allowing that creativity and allowing people to flourish, right? You create some things that end up in the wrong path. right? And it's literally that simple. Like, keep the politicians' mindset proper, right? And let them just leave people alone. And the world flourishes like you cannot imagine, right? And I would say that, it's, I just since we're talking about just a quick analogy, it's like, a lot of poison will kill you very quickly, and a little poison will kill you slowly. So if you have a little bit of interference in people's natural ability to grow and prosper, and it's just humanity. I don't care if you're from Guatemala, US, Iran, Saudi Arabia, anywhere in the world, you leave people alone, they want to help each other and they want to prosper, right? They don't want to go after each other with knives and sticks and guns, right? It's unnatural to do that, right? And so I would just say that bottom line is it's so simple. Just stay out of it, right? And protect individual rights against somebody's, hurting somebody else, right? Or stealing. But other than that, just leave them alone. It's so simple. And
dejen a la gente ser. Dejen que la gente haga. Van a resolver sus problemas. Simplemente los que realmente lucran de mantenernos enfrentados y de estar en este juego son realmente los malos políticos. Y lo que David nos está diciendo ahorita es: dejen a la gente en paz. La gente quiere prosperar, la gente se quiere ayudar. La única manera real de crear riqueza y hacer dinero es colaborando y sirviéndonos a otro. Esa es la historia de los fondos. I was telling our audience the importance that it has, what you just said, that people want, I agree with you 1,000%. People want to collaborate with each other. There is no other way to create wealth and to make money for one and for others if we don't serve each other.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the beauty of it.
It's a beauty of humanity and your soul, really, right? I mean, if you want to talk about it, like, so, people, you could not want to help other people and make all the money in the world, but you're not necessarily satisfied. There's been all kinds of studies like that, right? It's just natural human interaction, and your battery gets energized by doing the right thing, right? Your battery does not energize by killing people, right? Innately, you won't sleep well at night. You'll have all kinds of problems mentally. Whoever does stuff like that they're hurting them. They're hurting themselves inside, and they're hurting themselves. But I agree with you 100%. The natural inclination of people is prosperity and friendship. And, if you look back, like there were these studies done, that they interview people like right before their last breath, God forbid, like, at the end of towards the life. And they're like, I wish I spent more time with my friends. I wish I did the things that I wanted to do and enjoy this. I wish I didn't work as hard, even though working is phenomenal and it's a beautiful part of life. If you look back, it's very obvious. Like, people want to hug people. They want to be friends. They want to make money. And so, yeah, so it's the natural course is beautiful. And it's, I think it goes back towards that over time. We all get, lost in the day-to-day. But yeah, the beauty is that there's a natural course, I believe. And that course is all humanity to work with each other. And I think that, back to your point, the less that there's intervention and force in, hey, you need to take your money and give it to that, or you need to do this and you need to do that. People that make money help people in the world dramatically, just by nature. If you look at, Bill Gates with Microsoft, and again, every example will have something that people won't agree with. Oh, well, he didn't deserve this, he didn't deserve that. But the reality is that Bill Gates at some point is going to pass away, right? His money is not going to disappear, but the money that he made by creating Microsoft and making everybody's life better and more easy to communicate and collaborate and all of this, it's 100 times more than the money he actually made. The guys that figured out how to create a plow, right, to farm better and create that, the guy passed away, I don't know how many hundreds of years ago, right? But his invention has helped all of humanity times a million, right? So there's a natural also ability when you create money and you create wealth, and big money and wealth is usually created by doing things that are helping it. You can steal and cheat and make a little bit of money, but to make big money, you're helping the world. 100 times more than anybody and anything else. That also plays into the natural role of, let people, have more money in their pocket so that they can invent more and put more money into their businesses, and let just that natural kind of thriving thing work.
Awesome.
Beautiful. I have a more direct question for Pouya. So as an investor, will you be willing to invest in Central America? How do you see it?
Yeah, of course. Listen, people are so smart, right? And they find the best opportunities, right? It's not about, pleasing one person, because you get the big picture right. Next thing you know, the flow will be 100 times more than you ever expected, right? And you can see that over the long run. It's just like, build the right infrastructure and the right vehicle, and everything will flow to that, because there's so much communication these days, right? Information just flows and follows very rapidly. So for me personally, I'm a big fan of the U.S. market right now, and so what we've done is that the next level. So I said, hey, listen, why don't we take this kind of mindset that we have that's more long term and that is conservative, and apply it to the U.S. public equities market, right? And it's a little bit interesting because the U.S. public equities market and the stock market is known for day trading and gambling and in and out and all of this kind of stuff. I said, well, no, at the end of the day, these public companies are operating businesses, right? At the end of the day, that's what they are. You can, on top of the water, all this craziness happens, but underneath the water, it's calm and it's a long-term type of environment, right? Just really interesting. This morning, I think it was Jeff Bezos. There was a little clip about him. He said how he watches stock go from $116 down to $6, 93% drop, while all the business fundamentals were actually increasing dramatically. And then the stock jumped 400-fold, right? 400 times from that low point. So kind of getting back and kind of weaving all this together. So I said, you know what? Why don't we take the longer term mindset of finding these operating businesses and invest in U.S. public equities, right? So, and I use a statistic often. So in the last 40 years, there's been like $50 trillion of money made in U.S. public equities. And just quickly coming to your point, the reason this market was able to flourish the way it is because the way the country was set up, right? Compared to other countries, not in a perfect world, but compared to other countries, the idea was let people do what they need to do to prosper, right? More than other countries. So it created this environment that has flourished, right? And has created these opportunities. And that's why I think the US equities market is like 60, 70% of all the public companies in the world. So you have to go back to the question of why is that? And it's kind of what we were talking about. But just moving it forward. So basically a lot of money is made there, right? These are operating businesses. They're not ticker symbols in my mind. So we took a private equity approach of investing in public companies. Like, would we buy the whole company and why? Which is really what we've kind of, the mindset of the family has been. And so we started to find these tremendously undervalued companies, right? We got into, I would say Chipotle, a $3 billion market cap, right? It's worth, I think, $75 billion today. We still think it's very undervalued for many reasons. And part of the reason was that, analysts kept saying it's Mexican food, right? And we said, well, wait a second, it's not really Mexican food because you have beef, chicken, rice, vegetables. You don't have to even get it in a Mexican wrap. You can get it in a bowl with rice and beef. It's like a Chinese beef bowl. So if you can satisfy the Chinese, you can satisfy everyone. So why was it so undervalued? And we realized that they were pricing the food cheaper per gram than even McDonald's.
Right? That's a beautiful metric. The first time Pouya told me this story, guys, it was like, have you ever thought about a fast food restaurant from the perspective of how much does a gram of that food cost? Nobody thinks in that.
Well, when you have a line out the door, you have to wonder, why is that happening? Right? What's the difference here? Why are all the other restaurants empty and this one has a line out the door? Right? So that was one reason why. The second reason why, and I'm coming back to your initial question about investing here, right? So that's the first reason why. The second reason why is because you don't have to have a chef. You don't have to have waiters and waitresses. So it's like the Ford assembly line, which means you can scale en masse without having to be dependent on one person, which sometimes is a chef or often is the chef, right? And then the unit economics are incredibly strong. And then they were delivering their food faster than McDonald's and Chipotle and everyone else as well. Faster than McDonald's, Burger King, and everyone else. So people want speed, right? So it's just getting into these underlying premises. And if you look at the US public equities market, which probably resonates around the world because it's just one reality, you know, less than 1 in every 300 of these public companies has created more than half of that $50 trillion of valuation. So some of these companies are so obvious and so undervalued, right? And we were able to find these companies early. We got into Tesla at 5 billion market cap, right? And if you look back at when we got into Tesla, it was obvious because a lot of what you're seeing today was already there 15 years ago. They're winning Motor Trend Car of the Year. Elon Musk was sleeping on the factory floor, right? The car took 60% less parts to create. So once you get the economies of scale, it's much easier to produce these cars. And then our theory was also based on China, right? That they needed electric cars because the average person in China lives 6 or 7 years less than in America. For one reason, air pollution. It's not how much they spend on their health or their water. Air pollution is so bad, that's why everyone wears these masks. I knew China would need Tesla, right? This is before they got approved to sell even one car in China. And I also knew that the Chinese government is the biggest importer of oil, right? So who wants to be reliant on importing oil? And then 3, all the biggest car buyers in the world are the Chinese by far, right? But they were spying all the American, Japanese, and European cars. They didn't want to do that. They want to build their own, have their own industry, but they couldn't because gas cars had been around for 40, 50 years. So they also I knew they wanted to get towards electric cars, right? So they needed Elon. I knew they were going to steal his ideas, which again, that's fair,
They did, yeah.
right? But
The name of the game.
that's the name of the game. But from 5 billion, that would be when the company hits $1 trillion market cap, right? And so we've already won the game. And then we can evaluate and reevaluate, which is what we always do. And then we got into Amazon, at 60 billion market cap. We got into Activision at 8 billion market cap. And then we were short the IBM, the GE, Intel, cannabis growth companies, and all that. So $1 invested in us is worth about, on an unlevered, long-only basis, is worth about $24 versus being worth about $6, $6.50 invested in the S&P, right? So the reason I say that is that I can say everything that I want, but we've had a very strong ability of really getting granular and identifying and understanding these conceptual concepts that create all of this wealth, right? So, you can say what you want, but when you can prove it by being able to hone in and identify these companies, that same type of conceptual ability applies to, hey, what do I think the government should do? Right? Even though I'm not a politician, I don't want to be involved in government at all, but because the question came up. And then in terms of investing in Guatemala, same exact concept, right? So if Guatemala lets people flourish, and then you hear stories, like I come here, I'm so impressed, right? What's happening here is unbelievable, right? In terms of even the safety components, even the way that the country is being built out, the infrastructure, the mindset, right? And you're seeing Guatemala kind of take off, from what I understand, a lot more than other countries in Central America and South America, right? So if you keep that thing up, all of a sudden people like me will find a company that started in Guatemala or that's growing in Guatemala, and then you won't have to look for me. I'll look for you and I'll come and find you.
That's the thing.
And there's so many billionaires around the world, right? And I'm not saying I'm one. There's so many billionaires and so many people that are so wealthy and so intelligent that they will come searching for you, right? If you just do the right things. Obviously, it also helps to advertise and say, hey, Guatemala is doing X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. But it's you can't lie and steal and cheat these days. There's too much information out there.
Absolutely.
You do the right things and the money will come flowing to you like crazy. It's literally looking for you right now. Just like I scour the public equities market for the next great idea, and it pops out at you at like a lightning bolt, right? You find these companies, you look at every angle and you're like, wow. So there's plenty of capital in the world, and a lot of it is focused in the US because they have the right policies and they have transparency. And obviously there's been times where it goes up and down and you lose some of that. But if you go back to the foundation, that's what created a lot of the wealth in America that still enjoys today. And I think Guatemala or any other country around the world, and again, bringing this all full circle, hopefully I'm not talking too much, but
please do.
bringing all this full circle. Look, it's all humanity. It doesn't matter if you're American or Japanese or European. You're a human being, right? And so America could be recreated in Guatemala, in Japan, in any part of the world that just follows the same steps. Like if you look at the Middle East right now, I've been to Dubai, for example, many times. They've literally taken the footprint of what made America amazing, right? At its foundation, right? Lower taxes, let people do what they want to do, create a business environment that's friendly and that's respectable of everybody, right? And look what's happening in the UAE. All the smart money, all the smart people are going and living there, right? Because they know they can do business. The taxes are low, right? They're not trying to say, hey, I'm going to force you to do X. I'm going to force you to do Y. It's like, hey, you people know better than we do as the government. Go and work your ass off and make our country a lot of money, right? And people naturally are flowing there, right? There's more millionaires that have moved into the UAE over the last few years than anywhere in the world, and it's a very small pocket. So all I'm saying is that people are people. Everyone is intelligent. Everyone has a heart. Everyone has a soul, right? If you create the right environment, it'll flourish. If you don't, it won't. It's literally as simple as that. It's not that an American is better than anybody else, because most of the prosperous people in America are not even American, right? If you look at a lot of these people that have built these incredible companies, Elon, I mean, all of these guys, they all came from a different country into America. So it's not that America, just because it has the name United States of America, is so good. It's that they built the right infrastructure and they built the right mentality and mindset, right? Again, even America could be a lot better, right? But compared to the way that they created it versus other countries, it's done phenomenally well. And so, yeah, so
that's great. And let me just say it again in Spanish to our audience, our Spanish audience. El mensaje para mí es muy claro y es sencillo. Como debe ser todo, y es prácticamente, si ustedes crean la infraestructura adecuada en Guatemala para que la gente pueda crear y pueda trabajar, la naturaleza humana va a provocar riqueza y va a crear nuevas oportunidades. Y nosotros como guatemaltecos lo que tenemos que hacer es hacer las cosas bien, trabajar duro, hacer las cosas bien, en un país donde nos dejen hacer las cosas bien. Y decía un tema muy importante, ¿qué vamos a hacer nosotros o qué podemos hacer para atraer estos inversionistas millonarios o billonarios? Y hagan las cosas bien y nosotros los billonarios, como decía aquí nuestro amigo, los vamos a encontrar, ¿verdad? O sea, si ustedes hacen bien las cosas en un ambiente donde se pueda crecer, el dinero los va a encontrar. Para mí es un mensaje muy positivo.
Y la cantidad de dinero que está allá afuera, porque los guatemaltecos tenemos una mente de escasez. Siempre estamos pensando que hay poquito y que nos lo tenemos que pelear entre todos. Realmente ustedes no se imaginan la cantidad de riqueza que podríamos generar como país si cambiáramos nuestra mentalidad a lo que dice Coca. Hay trillones de dólares buscando dónde ser invertidos, buscando una buena oportunidad.
Y Pouya, if you don't mind, I would just like to turn back to your fund. And I'm going to explain, if that's okay with you, a little bit in Spanish.
Sure, please.
So, lo que Pouya nos dice es, háganlo bien, nosotros lo vamos a encontrar. Ese punto yo creo que está claro. Pouya tiene una mentalidad de largo plazo. Su fondo ha rendido, can I say how much it yields?
Yeah, I mean, the overall performance has been discussed.
The overall performance. El fondo, desde que él cambia su family office y lo convierte en el fondo de Prime, ha rendido 2,300% desde su incepción. Y mencionó varias palabras ahí que quiero que se aprendan, porque recuerden que finanzas es un idioma. It's a long unlevered, long only unlevered portfolio, right?
Yeah. So we have a long short, right? And the idea is that if you know who's going to do well, you also know who's not going to do well. But the main portfolio right now, or the long only portion of the portfolio unlevered, is the one that I mentioned the performance on, that $1 is worth about 23.5 versus 6 for the S&P.
Lo que eso significa es que lo que es valiosísimo del fondo puntual de Pouya es que él solo ha comprado acciones. Eso significa long, las tiene. Él tiene las acciones. Y unlevered significa que no hay deuda. Las acciones son 100% capital. Recuerden que solo podemos, lo que tenemos en un fondo en la vida, en su casa, o lo tienen o lo deben. Unlevered es que no debe nada, lo tiene. Y este fondo, comprando acciones, ha ido rindiendo por el crecimiento y la habilidad de un hombre con la preparación de Pouya de identificar el fundamento de sus inversiones, y lo ha multiplicado $23 contra 6 del Standard & Poor's por $1 invertido ahí.
Y otra cosa que me llamó la atención es que comentaba al inicio que sus inversiones inmobiliarias, de lo que ha comprado, nunca han vendido nada.
Yeah,
todo lo tiene.
They have never sold a property. You own everything. That's long-term mentality. Pouya, this has been
amazing.
Awesome. This is an experience.
I feel the same way. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here. Thank you for being in Guatemala. We wish you a great stay. Thank you for all your knowledge, and will be great to have you back here in, I don't know, a couple of years, next year, whatever.
Whenever you want to come.
It would be a pleasure, really.
You have a home here, and you actually know that. So, Pouya, from me personally, from my partners and my friends, thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias. Esta es tu casa.
Thank you.
Thank you for your message. Very, very clear, very simple. I loved it. And thank you for sharing with us this time. And you are always welcome here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Y para todos ustedes, gracias por estar con nosotros, gracias por estar aprendiendo con nosotros. Este mundo es maravilloso, como ven, nos encantan y hay muchísimo que hacer en Guatemala y en Centroamérica. Así que gracias por estar acá y nos vemos en el próximo podcast.